Normally, we don't do interviews on Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live is mostly about calls, but every once in a while, we have an opportunity that we just can't pass up, and I think we've got one of those opportunities this evening. We've got Roger Ver of MemoryDealers.com. Roger, you there?
I am here.
Excellent. Now, Roger, you've gotten excited about a product recently that is, it's not your product. It's something called the Bitcoin.
Wait, we're not going to talk about DDR and RAM and all kinds of computer geeky stuff?
Thank goodness, no.
Oh, okay.
There's lots of shows that'll do that for you. Probably better than we will.
Although Bitcoins are a bit computer geeky at this point.
Yeah, they are. They are.
So, Roger, what is a Bitcoin for folks that don't know?
So for those that are just hearing about Bitcoin for the first time, it's basically the world's first peer-to-peer uncentralized currency. And what that means in basic English is that there's no central controlling entity. Bitcoins aren't controlled by any corporation. They're not controlled by any government. They're simply controlled by all the users of Bitcoin as a whole. So no single entity can block you from performing transactions with your Bitcoins. So, for example, recently lots of people wanted to donate to WikiLeaks or Occupy Wall Street with PayPal. But the government put pressure on Visa and MasterCard and PayPal to block those transactions because those entities are centralized. With Bitcoins, nobody can stop you from making a donation to WikiLeaks or Occupy Wall Street or anyone at all anywhere in the world because of the design of the Bitcoin network. So it's really a revolution in monetary systems.
And I just want to make it clear, you've got no real stake in Bitcoins.
How could you?
Yeah, right. You can't. I mean, this is just a currency, and you have as much stake in this as you coming on and advocating, say, the use of gold or silver as a currency. I mean, it's just you believe in the product and you know something about it, and that's why you're here for the interview.
That's right. I'm so excited about Bitcoins because I think it can be, an absolutely fantastic chance for everybody to have more financial privacy and to basically control their own finances without basically when you're using U.S. dollars, the U.S. government can still control everything that happens with it. They can inflate them. They can take them out of your bank account. They can do anything they want at any time. With Bitcoins, it's a mathematical impossibility for those things to happen. You can have 100% control over your own money. So basically, it's a way to take back control of your own money from the banks and the government and corporations and have 100% control over your own money. So I couldn't possibly be more excited about a system like that, and I think it's going to revolutionize the world.
Yeah, Roger's so excited about this that he came on to advertise his company, Memory Dealers, a few years ago on Free Talk Live, and then over the last year or so, you've basically said, screw this, I'm taking my Memory Dealers ads off the air, we're going to talk about Bitcoin. You've literally just been pouring your own personal savings into promoting, at least that's the impression I've gotten, into promoting the Bitcoin because you're just that excited about it.
That's exactly right. I think it's going to do the same thing to banks that email did to the post office. It's just an absolutely world-changing technology, and I want more and more people to hear about it and find out about it. And the more people that use it, the more useful it is, and it's gaining popularity every day. There's more users now than there were 6 months ago. There's more services than there were 6 months ago. Lots of really, really smart people are working on new software for it every day. And it's getting easier and easier to use, and a year from now, I'm sure it'll be even easier than it is today.
This is true. I have purchased things from Amazon.freetalklive.com. Excuse me. What do we use? Shop.freetalklive.com from Amazon, and I did it through a third-party vendor, and they took my Bitcoins and then bought the thing that I wanted and sent it to me. And so you can use Bitcoins in lots and lots of different ways now, and I'm really, I'm excited about them too. But, I don't have the expertise as to know why they're important. And one of the things that you pointed out, which is, it's really important, is when you use dollars, the United States government can decide from a political standpoint. WikiLeaks has never been charged with anything. Occupy Wall Street has never been charged with anything. But the United States government has pressured organizations like Visa and MasterCard and PayPal and things like this in order to get what they want from those organizations, which is no payment going to them.
That's exactly right. And with Bitcoins, that would be impossible. Nobody can ever block you from sending a payment to anyone anywhere in the world, which is really, really an amazing technology. So, for example, if you're living in a country that has governmental currency controls, with Bitcoin, they can't stop it. You can send or receive as much money as you want from anyone you want to anywhere you want, anywhere in the world, and nobody can stop it, and nobody can even necessarily know about it if you don't want to make it public. So with a little bit of effort, you can make Bitcoins as private as you want it to be. With Bitcoins, people don't even need to know that you own them. It's really, really an amazing technology.
Now, you say that there's no third-party fees, and that's kind of interesting. What if a business owner, for instance, takes Bitcoins as cash, there's no chargebacks, right? I mean, this can be a real problem for business owners. This whole chargeback thing, doing business online.
Right. For anybody that does online sales with credit cards, you'll know that all the time people will try and buy stuff with you using a stolen credit card. And with Bitcoins, it's exactly like you said. There cannot be a chargeback. Once you've sent the money, it's gone. And the only way to have that returned, if you were the one that sent it, would be to ask that person to send it back to you. So in the future, I think Bitcoins will be used for trusted transactions like Amazon.com, where you trust the company to do the right thing, and you'll feel just fine sending Bitcoins because there's a 3% discount there that Amazon won't have to pay to the credit card company. And you'll be likely to use credit cards for shady transactions where you don't necessarily trust the website that you're sending the money to, because you know that in the future you can call the credit card company and ask for your money back. So,
Roger, on that point, having done some research into Bitcoins, and I have some Bitcoins, obviously, and looking into services like the Silk Road. I don't know if they're still up, but they probably are.
I hear they are.
The Silk Road is basically like a black market that's kind of an open-air black market, so to speak. It's there. It's on the Tor network, so you have to anonymize yourself to even get into it in the first place. But anybody can go in as long as they know how to get there. You go through this Tor network, so you're completely anonymized when you go into it. You create an anonymous account, and you can buy things that otherwise you might be put in a jail cell for purchasing. So, for instance, illegal drugs, for instance, are available through the Silk Road marketplace. And you might ask yourself, well, if Bitcoins is this final transaction, what happens if you get ripped off? Well, you could get ripped off in the black market anyway. You might even get beaten and robbed in the black market. So in this case, you're avoiding the risk of being beaten and robbed. You're only risking having, the money being taken from you. But even that is mitigated because they actually have like an eBay-like rating system where even though the sellers are anonymous, the sellers want to keep selling. So they do, most of them are doing honest business. And so therefore, if they do some business, obviously in the beginning, people are taking a chance working with a new seller. But once he starts building up his reputation, most people aren't going to bat an eye at buying from somebody that's got a good reputation on these, even on an anonymous service. So even with that aspect, I think there are still ways around it with rating systems.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'll tell you from firsthand experience in the traditional business world, just because somebody rips you off using U.S. dollars doesn't mean you have much recourse either. So there's not a whole lot of difference there. But the market will find a way to provide a reputation system, just like you said.
Roger, I want to hold on to you here if I can. You can give us a call. Ask any questions you have about Bitcoins to Roger Ver of MemoryDealers.com. It's 855-450-3733 here on Free Talk Live's live Saturday edition with Mark.
Who are you again?
I'm Mark.
Roger's not in charge of Bitcoins. Nobody is, but he sure knows a lot about them.
Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live, 855-450-FREE. That's the SACL toll-free call-in line, 855-450-3733. You can call in and... Well, right now we're doing basically an interview with Roger Ver from MemoryDealers.com about Bitcoins and what they are and why they're of benefit to you, because this is a pretty new phenomenon out there. Let's make sure I can pull Roger up here. Roger?
Yep.
Hey, Roger, what time is it where you are?
It's a little after 10 a.m. here.
10 a.m.
I'm sorry, 9 a.m., 9:20.
Calling from Tokyo, is it?
That's correct.
Wow.
That's right. The sun never sets on Free Talk Live.
We're a morning show over there, Mark.
That's right. We're the morning drive show in
Coming
Tokyo.
at you, Tokyo.
You're my favorite podcast. I listen to you guys every day on the trains here in Tokyo. So.
Thank you, Roger. Real quick here, if you've been hearing about the new digital currency known as Bitcoin, yet obtaining them has been tricky until now, Crypto Exchange is the fastest and safest way to buy and sell your Bitcoins. They also offer a complete bullion store, so you can go and buy gold and silver privately with Bitcoin. If you're totally clueless about Bitcoin currency, they've got a 24-hour customer service line there. Just visit their website and click on the live support link at the top. Somebody will come up to help you. You can see Crypto Exchange banner posted at bitcoin.freetalklive.com. It's probably the best way to find it because spelling Crypto Exchange here isn't really going to work out too well. It's bitcoin.freetalklive.com is the best way to get to that banner. It's also on the side of the page at freetalklive.com.
I have to say I'm interested in this Crypto Exchange. I'm actually signing up for an account right now to kind of check it out a little bit further. But basically, the idea is they'll let you buy and sell Bitcoins in any currency.
That's the idea.
That's pretty cool.
So, Roger, I was saying, about a currency. One of the things about currencies that's important is that they not be able to be counterfeited very easily. But, everybody knows that you could do a pretty good approximation of a U.S. dollar with a laser printer. That's why they have an entire force of men who are armed who will go after you if you try to do that. That's sort of the United States government's system for handling counterfeit. But Bitcoin doesn't have a group of armed men. How does it handle counterfeiting?
That's right. Bitcoins are protected by something much better than the Secret Service. Bitcoins are protected by the rules of mathematics. So if you point a gun at the rules of mathematics, they're not going to flinch. They don't care if you're pointing a gun at them or not. So the Bitcoin network currently is more powerful than the world's top 500 supercomputers combined. So there's pretty much no way that you can counterfeit a Bitcoin.
Back that statement up. Hold on. Bitcoin's more powerful than the world's what?
Top 500 supercomputers combined.
Okay, so
the Bitcoin network.
What could they do to beat up Bitcoin? Those 500 supercomputers.
They can't because they're not. They don't have more processing power than the entire Bitcoin network. So you would need a lot more processing power than the entire Bitcoin network in order to maybe stop transactions from going through as easily with the Bitcoin network. But that's not likely to happen. As Bitcoin becomes more and more popular, the Bitcoin network will be stronger and stronger and stronger. So
that brings up a very interesting question, Roger, is who so when you think about currencies, most of the currencies in the world are created by governments. And so Bitcoin is in competition with people that, frankly, aren't very used to competition in their geographic area. They don't like competition in their geographic area. And they have a propensity to use groups of people with guns to get what they want, as opposed to working in the marketplace like most people do. How is Bitcoin going to compete against, say, governments that hire armies of hackers to take it down?
You cannot hack mathematics. So that's the exciting point about Bitcoins. Is the fundamental mathematics behind it is totally sound. You can't threaten mathematics. You can't force mathematics to do your bidding. Math is what it is. So that's what's so exciting about Bitcoin is that it doesn't really matter. Math is math, and you're not going to change the rules of the universe. Math is part of.
How does and you say that Bitcoins are private, and one of the agencies that people might want to be private from are agencies that wish to take money from you, whether that money is on a local level, where you've got a gang that's doing protection in your given area, or you live in some regime where you don't want to, where you find the taxes to be overly burdensome, or whatever the reason is that you want to be private. What is how is Bitcoin private? I mean, how do you make that happen? Because the average person can get a Bitcoin wallet pretty easily, but you got to be kind of a little more savvy to be private, right?
That's right. It takes a little bit more savviness to be private. A good rule of thumb is to use a different Bitcoin address for every single transaction, and basically what that means is every person who has a Bitcoin account has a Bitcoin address. It works kind of like an email address where anybody can send money to that address. But with Bitcoin, you can have as many addresses as you want. You can have 1 million different Bitcoin addresses.
Okay.
So if you use a different address every single time, it makes it much, much more difficult to track what's going on. There's a lot of good information on the Bitcoin Wiki. If you Google Bitcoin Wiki, you can find all sorts of information on how to do things much more privately, to the point where you can make it so that people don't even know that you have an account. So it's really...
When you send something, do you always send it from the same address? If you can receive at different addresses, do you always send from the same address, though?
No, it will send from the address that the coins were originally received from. But then there's all sorts of other interesting services online called Bitcoin mixers, which if you have some Bitcoins, you can mix yours with a whole bunch of other people's Bitcoins. So then the output will go to whoever you send, but to anybody looking at it from the outside, they'll have no idea where your Bitcoins came from or where they went to because they got mixed together with 1,000 other people's Bitcoins.
I bet they won't because I don't even have any idea of how this would be done.
Well, now when you're saying people can look in from the outside, the reason that's possible is because the entire Bitcoin network is completely transparent in that if you have an address, you can go and look it up online and you can see all of the transactions that have come in and gone out from that particular address.
That's exactly right. So in one sense, the Bitcoin network is totally public, where everybody can see how much money was sent from what Bitcoin address to another, but nobody necessarily knows who owns what Bitcoin addresses. So
right. The only way that somebody would know if you owned an address was if you advertised that you had that address.
Right, but you could have a million different other addresses that nobody knows that you do own.
Right, so you could have the one public address that you put out to people, and then you could have other private addresses where you take that money from the public address and put it to wherever you want it to go, and people would have no idea about those.
That's exactly right.
And, the agencies known as governments that want to tax transactions.
Like the IRS.
Yeah, the IRS or whatever. Bitcoins... How do you even quantify what kind of business you're doing? How do you say, how do you even report that? Even if you wanted to, how would you do it? I mean, because you're doing business in another currency.
Yeah.
It's also new. It's all brand new, and we'll see what the lawyers and the politicians decide they want to force upon the rest of us.
Speaking of the politicians, one of the politicians, I can't remember which one it was, came out and said basically that Bitcoins are bad, Silk Road is bad.
Well, yeah, of course it's bad. It's bad for their power structure and bad for the status quo. And in fact, I think Bitcoin came right on time. It's been around for a couple of years now, 2-3 years. It's really starting to come into its own, I think, at this point. As you said, Roger, there are all these new services that are constantly coming out, and some of them come and some of them go, so you kind of have to be careful with who you deal with and make sure you don't keep a bunch of Bitcoins with them. That's a lesson I learned the hard way, because there was this one company that just kind of went under all of a sudden.
Yeah, it was a bank that just basically, blew town.
Yeah, and took my Bitcoins with them. But I think it's really right on time, because next year, January 1st, the IRS is going to start enforcing rules on PayPal and other financial providers to where if you don't give them your tax info, they're going to keep 30% of every transaction. The IRS is. It's crazy.
Disgusting.
Yeah, Roger, will you hold the line here? You can give us a call if you have any questions about Bitcoins at 855-450. Free Talk Live, 855-450-FREE. That's the SACL toll-free call-in line here on the live Saturday edition of Free Talk Live, 855-450-3733. It's Mark with you.
And Ian.
Ian, tell me about the Free State Project Liberty Forum.
Well, I can tell you we've been talking about the Bitcoin here tonight, and we're going to continue that with Roger Ver, but there's a huge level of support for Bitcoin within the Liberty community. I know that Eric Voorhees is very excited about it. He's one of the guys with Crypto Exchange that we were just talking about there. There's like a Bitcoin consortium of some sort of free staters and liberty activists that are behind the Bitcoin because they see the value in it. So I imagine the Bitcoin's going to be one of those topics of hot discussion at the upcoming Liberty Forum, if not in some sort of an official manner, but certainly between the attendees coming up here in February 23rd through the 26th. We're going to be there broadcasting live every single night, and hundreds of like-minded, liberty-oriented people are going to be in attendance as well. And that's the real reason to come out, is not to see the speakers and the panel discussions and go to the banquet dinners and all the kind of convention-y things that will be going on. That's all great, but the real reason to go is to meet up with people who think like you do. That is, if you love liberty and you want a chance at seeing freedom in your lifetime, this is the place to go to get a vibe for what's going on here in New Hampshire with the Free State Project. Go to freestateproject.org/Liberty Forum. You can get registered there, grab the early bird discounted rates, and save yourself an extra 10% by using our discount code, which is FTL2012. That's FTL2012. To get an extra 10% off the already low, very affordable rates for the Liberty Forum coming up in February. freestateproject.org/Liberty Forum. And Roger Ver is with us from Memory Dealers. We're talking about Bitcoin, which he's very excited about, as are a lot of the people in the movement. And Roger, I know you had originally planned to come up to the Free State Project's Porcupine Freedom Festival. Do you have any? You weren't able to make it out, unfortunately, at the last minute. Something else came up. But do you have any plans to come to the Liberty Forum? I'm just curious.
It's possible. I'm sure I'll make it to New Hampshire at some point. I've been a Free State Project member for a number of years now, and I'll make it out there at some point.
Excellent. Well, the Liberty Forum is a great excuse to come out and check out New Hampshire right in the dead of winter. As a matter of fact.
Roger, one thing you mentioned was listening to Free Talk Live on your train trip there in Tokyo every day to go to work, and anybody can do that. We have archives going back for, like 5 years at archives.freetalklive.com. We do the show 7 days a week. We used to do it 6, but now we do it 7 days a week. We have different hosts that do it different times, and you can get the that show that we do every day. So that's hundreds, thousands of hours of Free Talk Live available to you for free at archives.freetalklive.com. So, Roger, we've been talking about the Bitcoin all along here, and what would as far as the individual goes, I mean, there's a lot of people who are probably listening to this and trying to figure out what is a Bitcoin, how does it...
I was going to say you should recap what a Bitcoin is.
How does it benefit me? And I just want you to, quickly tell people, how does it benefit the person who's listening?
Well, one thing that would benefit a person who's listening, if they want to buy something online, if you use a credit card, you have to worry about identity theft. They can get your credit card number and then go on a shopping spree and cause all sorts of trouble for you.
Yep.
If you pay with Bitcoin, all the merchant needs to know is that you paid them and where to ship the goods, and then maybe an email address for them to contact you. You don't have to give them any other information about you. You can just pay, and especially if you're buying virtual goods online, they don't need your address or any of that other information. Just send them the Bitcoins and tell them what to do with your virtual goods, and it's done. So it protects from identity theft. You don't have to worry about other people getting a hold of your credit card number and spending it. Basically, they won't be able to authorize your card to see what your maximum card limit is. If maybe a lot of people don't know this, but when you use a credit card somewhere at an online store, it's pretty easy for the merchant to see how much money they could charge your card. With
Really?
Bitcoins, they have if you have people don't necessarily need to know how many Bitcoins you have in your account, so it gives you a lot more privacy. If you're selling things online using Bitcoins, basically nobody really needs to know how many things you've sold. The only person that will know is that one transaction. So if you sell 1,000 different things to 1,000 different people, the one person might not necessarily know about the other 999 people.
Also, the fees that go into using credit cards online are incorporated in the costs of things. I mean, that's just the way that is. And it's one of the reasons it's difficult to get low-cost things online, because it costs a company, most of the purchase price when you buy something for $1, most of that is going to the credit card company, sadly, or at least a good portion of it is going to the credit card company. Whereas with Bitcoins, there are no fees inside of the transaction costs. I mean, there may be a fee to transfer your Bitcoins out of Bitcoins into dollars, but anytime you do a currency exchange, there's going to be fees, whether you're changing dollars into drachmas or into Bitcoins, right?
Right, that's right. And one actually exciting development that just was announced earlier this week is a company called OKPay.com now will send you a MasterCard that you can recharge using Bitcoins anytime. So basically it's like a MasterCard that will debit your Bitcoin account. So you can it's a physical card that you have. You can go into Lucky's or Walgreens or any store, use your MasterCard, and it'll debit your Bitcoin account.
That's incredible.
Is, I think, pretty exciting news.
Give me that name again. I want to check that one out.
Sure, that's OKPay.com, and they just announced that recently. Another exciting thing that they're going to be announcing, they say next week, is basically they'll have plugins for all the major online shopping carts. So if you run an online website that sells goods, they'll make it super, super easy to accept Bitcoins on your website. There's a couple of services that already do that. Another one is bit-pay.com. And one thing that's really convenient for merchants, if you want to accept Bitcoins as a payment, you can choose what percentage of the payment to receive in Bitcoins and what percentage to receive in U.S. dollars or euros or yen or whatever currency you want.
Wow, that's
outstanding.
outstanding.
At the time of the sale, it will automatically convert the Bitcoins that are received into whatever percentage of a government-issued currency you want, and you can keep the remainder in Bitcoins, up to 100% to dollars if you want, or 100% in Bitcoins. The merchant can choose, which I think is really, really convenient.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
These tools are getting better every week, and I think more and more online shops are going to be accepting Bitcoins because of these new tools.
Absolutely. Why would an online shop not want to accept Bitcoins? Is really the question you have to ask. I mean, Bitcoins really do, it can be so difficult to do business online with the way that, credit card companies just seem to favor the heck out of the customer. And I understand why customers want protections and that kind of thing, but credit card companies can act like it doesn't matter what your product is as long as the customer's protected. So they got something, now there's chargeback. They're not going to worry about whether or not the person returns the item. They'll just charge it back.
That's right. And with millions and millions of dollars of Bitcoins floating around out there in the world, there's no reason why an online merchant wouldn't want to accept Bitcoins. And it's getting easier and easier to do that every day. So if you have an online store, look into it. It's just a real simple plug-in for all the most popular online shopping cart softwares. Just plug it in, and boom, you're ready to accept Bitcoins.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out you've got no stake in this Bitcoin. You don't make any money from Bitcoins or anything like that. So
no, I just think that it's going to help set the world free. It's going to let people have control of their own money, and that's what people are so upset about with all the bailouts in the United States. The only reason that was able to happen is because the government can print as much money as they want and do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. If the world was using Bitcoins, the bailouts would have been impossible. They can't take your Bitcoins. They can't make fake Bitcoins. They can't give imaginary Bitcoins to someone else.
It's actually Bitcoins, it's true decentralization of the money supply. I mean, it doesn't require anything central. There's no Bitcoin head office. There's no Bitcoin corporation. There's no vault for the feds to go and raid. There's no server farm for them to take offline. I mean, it's completely untouchable by the federal government or any government.
That's exactly right. That's what's so exciting about it, is that it cannot be stopped. So people can do what they want with their own money, and there's nothing any organization, government or corporation or anybody else can do about it. You have 100% control over your own money. That's what's so exciting about Bitcoin, and that's why liberty lovers should be so excited and interested in Bitcoin.
When you mentioned WikiLeaks and Occupy Wall Street and how they had their bank accounts blocked, and essentially through the government's pressure on organizations like Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, and places like that. And I think that this is are Occupy Wall Street and WikiLeaks, are they taking Bitcoins right now? I mean, do they know enough to circumvent this? Because this is a relatively new technology that people haven't quite a lot of people haven't gotten their heads around yet. Are they taking stuff like that?
Absolutely. You can go on over to WikiLeaks.com right now and make a donation in Bitcoin. And WikiLeaks is smart. They know that a lot of the people that give them money might want to be anonymous. So they set up a different Bitcoin address for every single transaction. So if you request a Bitcoin address, they'll send you a unique address every time.
Got it. Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live, 855-450-FREE. That's a SACL toll-free call-in line here on the live Saturday edition of Free Talk Live, 855-450-3733. You can call in. And, well, right now we're talking to Roger Ver, and it's probably best to take calls regarding Bitcoins. But, at the top of the hour, we'll certainly be taking calls about anything that you want to talk about. Let's go back to Roger Ver, calling from Tokyo, proprietor of memorydealers.com, and we're talking about Bitcoins. Roger, we've discussed some of the benefits of Bitcoins from the standpoint of what sort of societally how a currency that's not controlled by a corporation or a government or a bank.
It's a completely decentralized digital currency that can be used anonymously and securely. I mean, it's an incredible product.
Yeah, we've discussed the advantages from the standpoint of the consumer, standpoint of business owners. One thing that I've heard as a critique of Bitcoins, and I'm sure you've heard this too, is they're not backed by anything. Libertarians often want currency that's backed by gold and silver. They'll say that bring back the gold standard and that kind of thing. What do you have to say to that critique?
I think Bitcoins are backed by a lot more than the U.S. dollar. Bitcoins are used voluntarily. Basically, Bitcoins are only worth whatever people are willing to exchange them for. But Bitcoins have inherent properties that make them incredibly useful. Gold has been used as money for thousands of years, but it's really, really difficult to send a gold coin from myself here in Tokyo to you guys there in New Hampshire. But if I wanted to send you guys $1,000 worth of Bitcoins, I can do it with a couple of clicks on my keyboard, and boom, you guys have the money.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like if you send the gold coin, you have to insure it. You hope it gets there. It's going to take 3 weeks to get to do it in any way along the place.
Right. So you could just send the Bitcoins. We could convert that into gold here if we needed to.
That much is true.
That's exactly right. And I know some liberty activists in New Hampshire said that they're more than willing to exchange Bitcoins for U.S. dollars or back and forth. So there's another interesting website called BTC Near Me, where you can put in your zip code, and it'll tell you all the people near where you are that are willing to buy and sell Bitcoins for whatever local currency they use where you live.
Do they register with btcnearme.com to be on that? Do they register with that website too, or does that website aggregate people?
it just aggregates them. Anybody can sign up with an email address and your zip code, and then you'll see all the other people near you that are willing to buy and sell things with Bitcoins. And that's btcnearme.com.
Yeah, and it bears mentioning here that you have no real stake in Bitcoins. I mean, this is just something that you know something about, and I've asked you to be on because I don't know that much about it.
Can we go back real quick to this objection about, there's nothing backing it?
Yeah, I wanted to.
It's a good objection, and it was the objection I came up with first when I'd first heard about Bitcoin.
Me too.
Whoa, wait a minute. But it seems to me, after learning more about the Bitcoin and having some experience with it, that any currency is valuable because of belief, right? People believe in the U.S. dollar. We know there's no real inherent value to it, and that it's not backed by anything, but people believe in it.
Well,
so it's
and a medium of
valuable.
exchange.
It's accepted as that's the reason why it's accepted as valuable, because it's convenient and it works and people believe in it. But if people didn't believe in the dollar, you tried giving it to somebody, they'd laugh at you.
Elephants are worth something. Everybody knows it, but not everybody wants elephants, and they're difficult to put in your pocket.
So the question is, are Bitcoins valuable to the people that use them? And the answer is clearly yes. I mean, the people that are using Bitcoins, like you said, Roger, there's all these neat services that are popping up, and that's because there's interest in the Bitcoin, that people already value the Bitcoin. You go to cryptoexchange.com and you can see there at the top of the page there's a value assigned in US dollars. You can change it to other currencies, but there's a current market value for the Bitcoin. So you can actually see what people think this is worth. Now, it's fluctuated.
And you can get that many dollars for your Bitcoins right then and there. You can get it.
And it's fluctuated wildly. I mean, we've seen it at over $30 per Bitcoin, 30 US dollars per Bitcoin. It's now hovering at around $2.20 per Bitcoin. It's also been as low as under $1, but it's been a long time since it's been that low. It's been over $1 since almost an entire year at this point. So there is real value in it. It is valuable in the marketplace for all the reasons we're talking about: decentralization, getting away from the government, avoiding having the IRS find out about it, taxing it, all of that stuff. And the more services that come out, the more people start using it, the more valuable it becomes.
That, and I think that's backed by the logarithm, the math that makes it impossible to counterfeit, because everything else out there can be counterfeited, even gold. I mean, you can put lead inside of a gold coin, put gold around it. So Bitcoin's not counterfeitable. Roger, let's go to Mike in Colorado with a question here. Mike,
you're on with Roger.
Mike,
what?
You're on the radio for Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
I just want to say how people can spend Bitcoins and stuff. Like, there are a lot of cool services. So,
like what?
Like what?
Like, I know that you can buy servers, you can buy a whole bunch of stuff. You can even buy gold. I found this website; it's pretty cool.
Which website are you referring to that you can buy gold?
It was like coinabul.com, I think it was.
Coin a what?
abul.com.
There's actually a number of different websites that'll sell gold and silver coins using Bitcoins.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is just, you got to check every proprietor out and get ratings and things like that. I mean, we're just talking about people that are claiming to sell at this point. We're not advocating any of them.
Yeah, also I know this other place that, like for servers, it's called btcvps.net. It's pretty cool.
Okay, so he's just providing a couple of examples of things that you can do right now with the Bitcoin, like buy online service, like internet web service, for instance.
Mike, what have you bought with Bitcoins?
I bought a whole bunch of stuff. Mostly, I just like buy and sell them and trade them, but I've been looking at a lot of different websites just for like the fun of it. So
yeah, so you're using it as a commodity at this point. You buy some, you sell some, you trade them, you see if you can make some money doing it, like a currency exchange.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
Mike, appreciate the call. 855-450-3733.
Roger, what is it that we haven't covered about the Bitcoin that you think is important to get out tonight?
One thing that I think is interesting is when I actually first heard about Bitcoins on your show, I went and looked at the Bitcoin Wikipedia page, or the Bitcoin Wiki. And at that point, there were only around a dozen, maybe 24 businesses that were listed as accepting Bitcoins as payment. If you go and look at that same page today, there's now thousands of different businesses that accept Bitcoins.
Because that was one of my original objections was, like a year or two ago when we first heard, like 2 years ago when we first heard about this, it's like, yeah, what am I going to do with these things?
Right, and that was my original concern, but now it's completely different. I've bought nutritional supplements, electronics, I've bought books online.
I know someone who bought illegal drugs with it too, and it was great.
You could do it. I mean, and if one has a problem with Bitcoins, for the people, for the ability to purchase illegal drugs or weapons or whatever online on the silkroad.com using this Tor anonymizer.
I don't think it's silkroad.com, but it's something else will get you there.
Okay. Anyway, if somebody has a problem with that for that reason, then one should have a problem with cash in general. Right? Because, I mean, people are buying drugs and guns and things like that with cash. Bitcoin is just a currency. And, what people choose to buy and sell with their currency is up to them. Now, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to weapons aren't dangerous. It's the people that hold them that are. When it comes to drugs, I think that there are benefits to drugs of sorts. As far as recreational drugs go, hey, look, one of the most dangerous recreational drugs in the world is alcohol, and it's legal pretty much everywhere. So
I think the Bitcoin's amazing. I'm glad you brought that up, Roger, that there are a lot more now today than there were just a year ago of places to spend and buy these things.
Let's go directly to David and Keene. You got a question real quick. David?
Doesn't matter.
David, what's you're on the air with Roger Ver from Free Talk Live. What's your question?
Oh, I just tuned in, and it's about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I was wondering what backs up Bitcoin. What makes Bitcoins worth money? I just tuned in. Maybe you covered it already. But
We did, but we'll cover it again. Thanks for the call. Roger, real quick.
Yeah, basically Bitcoins are worth money because people agree that they're worth money, and they're incredibly useful as a currency. You can send them anywhere in the world instantly without anyone getting involved.
Because they have useful value in the marketplace. Great time. Thanks for coming on tonight, Roger.
Thanks very much, Roger. You can give us a call.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
By the way, Roger's selling physical Bitcoins, which are really cool, over at MemoryDealers.com. That's his only interest in it.
Free Talk Live, 855-450-FREE. Free Talk Live, 855-450-FREE. That's the SACL toll-free call-in line here on the live Saturday edition of Free Talk Live. You can give us a call at 855-450-FREE and talk about whatever you want to talk about. That's what we do here on Free Talk Live.
So we were going to move on, but somebody else wanted to talk about the Bitcoin thing. So for those of you just tuning in, we've been talking about Bitcoins with Roger Ver from Memory Dealers. He's a huge fanatic for Bitcoins. He's the guy, you've heard us talking about Bitcoins for weeks and months on this show. It's because of Roger. He's the one who's been buying the ads to have us promote the Bitcoin. But interestingly, he heard about Bitcoin by us talking about it on the air. So it's kind of funny how all that's panned out. But when we get a chance, we're going to talk about a smoking ban coming up here in a little bit. First, let's continue this discussion.
Yep. Roger, can you hear me?
Yep.
Just wanted to make sure you're on. Now, one thing you said that convinced you that Bitcoins were really going to make it, and I think what we should mention this real quick is poker, online poker.
Right. I heard on your show about I've never even once played poker online myself, but I heard on your show about the United States government coming in and telling people that what they can and can't do with their own money. Lots of people enjoy playing poker online on the Internet with real money. The government decided, no, we know what's best for you. You can't do that. But that's when I put two and two together. People want to play poker. The government can't stop Bitcoin transactions. People are going to use Bitcoin for poker. And there's lots and lots of sites coming online that are accepting real money as Bitcoins so people can play poker online from at home anywhere in the world, including the United States. So if you used to play poker online for real money and you couldn't do it because the government's cracked down on that, now you can with Bitcoin.
Yeah, right, and Bitcoins are real money. You can buy, sell, and trade with them in real life.
And the way that the government, of course, cracked down on this was to target the financial transaction, the credit card companies, the banks. And they said, if we catch you doing business with any of these online poker places, we're going after you. So it's not particularly illegal for the individual, as I understand it, to play the poker. It's illegal for them to utilize any sort of U.S.-based financial company, credit card company, bank, etc., use their services to get the money into the poker account. But if you're using Bitcoin, you're doing an end run around the entire thing, and they can't take that out because Bitcoin is a completely decentralized peer-to-peer currency.
It's not even an illegal activity because as far as the government's concerned, Bitcoins aren't money.
Well, that's a good point.
Bitcoins aren't anything yet as far as the government's concerned. They haven't figured out how to classify them legally. We'll see what happens.
Roger, let's go to Dan in Maine here. I think we've got a question here. Dan?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
All's well.
Ron with Roger Ver.
I just wanted to chime in on the Bitcoins thing, and I've actually just started using Bitcoins pretty much when I heard about it from you guys. And I've actually used Silk Road many times since then. Pretty cool.
The Silk Road is an online black market for Bitcoin transactions.
Yeah, and not just like a black market stuff, but you can get just like regular things on there, which is pretty cool.
Well, let me ask you, Dan, what have you gotten at Silk Road?
I've gotten seeds for cannabis. I've gotten MDMA, ephedrine, which is like a caffeine substitute.
Isn't that like so that ephedrine, you can also use it, it's for allergies or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a allergenic that's just recently been banned, but it's you can use it as a caffeine substitute, diet suppress it, and it's good for allergies.
Gotcha.
So it's pretty cool.
Okay.
Excellent.
And,
glad to hear that's worked out. Have you been ripped off at all through the Silk Road?
No, I have not been ripped off. They have a really awesome rating setting, it's pretty much just like eBay, except a little bit more open source to it. And most everyone that you buy from, you're like, oh, they have a 99 rating or a 100 rating. You feel pretty safe.
Right, it makes sense. I mean, if you're going to rip somebody off, then they're going to give you a bad rating, and then nobody's going to buy from you in the future. If you have the choice of somebody who's got a rating of 75 versus somebody who's got 99, you're going to buy from the 99.
Yeah, and think about what that does for the black marketplace. I mean, if anybody is listening has ever bought anything on the black market, you know that you're frequently dealing with dealers that may be a little shady,
less than credible.
Maybe they're nice people, but they don't know that they've gotten a bad product in. For instance, I know some people who purchased some MDMA from a street dealer, at one point, and they happen to have a testing kit, so they tested it and they found out it was not real, because that's frequent in the black market.
Soda or something.
What's that?
Half baking soda or something,
or nothing. Or in many cases, doesn't have MDMA in it at all. It's a completely different drug, like DXM. And but if you're going through Silk Road, you've got different vendors that are competing for your business, but they're all competing anonymously. So in the black market, these turf wars happen and people get shot over selling illegal drugs. But on the internet, nobody knows who anybody else is.
Can't shoot anybody you don't know.
So you've got literally open air competition for these products, which increases the likelihood that you're going to get what you actually ordered, and is probably going to drive prices down a little bit.
Yep, and in that instance, their rating is their sole means of keeping their business perpetual. If they fuck up their rating.
Oh, we've got to hit the dump button on that one. Sorry there, dude. Gotta let you go. This is a radio program. You can't say that on the radio.
Can't drop the F-bomb on the radio.
We can talk about, drugs, but you can't say the F-bomb.
Any comments on Dan's experience?
Yeah, the Silk Road from a technology standpoint is actually really, really interesting. Basically, the way it works is through some special anonymizing software called the Tor network. Nobody knows who runs this website, and the website doesn't know who's accessing this website. And because you're paying with Bitcoins, and then they send it through a big mixer, nobody can track back who actually paid for whatever order on the Silk Road. So if the police were to intercept whatever drugs or illegal something that was shipped in the mail to you, you would have total deniability. You could say, I didn't pay for that. I have no idea who shipped that to me. I don't know anything about it.
Prove it.
Because they can't trace the payment back to you because of the way the Bitcoin network works. So from a technology standpoint, it's really, really interesting, and basically it allows people to buy and sell whatever they want free of government control. So it's really, really interesting.
I think that's so exciting.
Let's go to Chris in Alabama. Chris, you've got a question?
Yeah, I had a quick question about Bitcoin. I'm an avid listener, and I've heard you guys talk about them so much. But one little thing I'm curious about is how, when you get them in the first place, is there not some sort of transaction with a credit card or a PayPal account? How do you purchase them to begin with?
I'll take that question. So the easiest way, I think, is to have somebody pay you in Bitcoins for something that you provide for them, whether it's a physical good or a service. Another way is you can walk in and deposit cash at any bank account, at any Chase location and buy it through one of the exchanges. You can also find someone that's nearby that's willing to exchange cash for Bitcoins, or you can buy them online with a credit card. And I know for a fact in another couple of weeks here, there's going to be a whole lot more people that are actually start selling virtual Bitcoins directly with a credit card, so you won't have to wait or goof around with shipping anything through the mail.
Well, doesn't Crypto Exchange handle this?
CryptoExchange.com at bitcoin.freetalklive.com. We'll do it for you right now, Chris. You can go to bitcoin.freetalklive.com. They've got a banner there, and you can check it out. We've also got a little Free Talk Live tip jar where you can put Bitcoins in. Why? Because these things, this is real money. It's not United States dollars, and I'm not used to.
It's more real than that because they can't print these things out.
Yep.
And it's much more convenient than that. So Mark and I had a little conversation off the air about the Free State Now project, where he's trying to get additional people to sign up. And we talked about it a little bit, and I decided, okay, I'll make a donation to that. So I went over to freestatenow.com, found the Bitcoin address, and from here in Tokyo, I sent $1,000. He already has it in his Bitcoin account.
Wow.
Just by a couple of clicks on my computer, he already has it. And if I hadn't announced on the air here, nobody would know who that money came from. Or
I didn't know.
Yeah, and if you check, it's already in your account. I already sent it. And just like that, I didn't have to ask Visa or MasterCard or the Japanese government or the U.S. government or anybody for any permission whatsoever.
And he
just,
got all 1,000 too.
There.
There's no fees were taken out in that transaction.
There it is.
I guess,
Thank you.
450 Bitcoins sent. So.
Say again, sir?
So I guess my concern is you mentioned that, yes, you could go into a Chase Bank and pay cash for them, or you could purchase them online with a credit card. But if you did not know anybody who had these or could not find a private dealer, I wonder if the government really wanted to trace you back to the beginning transaction. Say you had purchased a large amount of illegal drugs through Silk Road or something like that, and the government started catching on to this and wanted to dig deeply into it. Is there not some sort of paper trail at the beginning of the process?
But Bitcoins themselves aren't illegal, so there's tons and tons of non-illegal shops that take Bitcoins. So you can buy a new TV or food or anything you want online with Bitcoins.
Let's explain a little. Let's explain a little further here in a moment.
Hold, everybody.
We'll come back.
Yep.
Free Talk Live, 855-450-FREE. Free Talk Live, 855-450-FREE. That's the SACL toll-free call-in line here on the live Saturday edition of Free Talk Live. It's Mark with you.
And Ian.
Yeah, I'm doing the main chair here because Ian's voice is,
shot.
Needs to be saved as best we can. You can give us a call at 855-450-FREE. We've been doing, at this point, going on an hour and a half with Roger Ver from MemoryDealers.com about Bitcoins, and we'll bring Roger back here in a second. But, 855-2-GET-VAPOR.
The e-cigarette is as revolutionary a product to the world of smokers as the Bitcoin is as revolutionary to the world of monetary transactions.
I think we might find in the future, and this is just a guess, that Bitcoins are one of the most revolutionary. It's the most revolutionary thing since the internet.
Oh, I think it's huge, obviously, and that's what we're here talking with Roger Ver about from MemoryDealers.com.
That's right. We'll bring Roger back on here. Roger.
Great. Let's get back to Chris. Was he listening in Huntsville?
Yep. BHP.
Yep, that's Huntsville.
Great. Chris?
Hey.
Okay, got everybody
Chris,
back on here.
Your concern was, your issue is, when you get these Bitcoins, this decentralized, this anonymous digital currency, that you're worried about the initial transaction where you're feeding into a Bitcoin account, say with a credit card or with money in a bank account or something like that, and concerned that the government will be able to track it down the line to what you use it for. Is that correct?
Yes, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Roger, what do you say to that?
Well, if you're concerned about that, one easy way to solve that problem is to go to MemoryDealers.com with your credit card, buy some of the physical Bitcoins that I'm selling, and then I'll ship those to you in the mail. When you get them, you can peel the holograms off and then redeem them back into virtual Bitcoins, and nobody will know which Bitcoins I sent you because there's 7.5 million Bitcoins currently, and each Bitcoin has its own unique history, and nobody will know which ones of those actual Bitcoins you have of those 7.5 million.
But,
so
that seems a little roundabout, Roger. Wouldn't it just be easier to just you feed money into a Bitcoin account and then just send it to another account, and they don't know that that's your account? Like the second account you send it to, they don't know.
That's exactly right. So as soon as you send it from one Bitcoin address to another, they have no idea who owns the next Bitcoin
It's not even
address.
really
So
a different account, right? I mean, it's the same account. It's just a different. So you can have your Bitcoin wallet and then use a number that you generate in your Bitcoin wallet to send yourself some money inside the same wallet. Essentially, isn't that the way it is? I mean, it's just a random generated number.
Right. That's right, but anybody looking from the outside won't know if that second address that the coins were sent to is owned by you or owned by somebody, in Zimbabwe. You have no idea where in the world that other wallet's address, who owns that one.
Okay, so the individual Bitcoin addresses are perfectly anonymous, I suppose, after the first transaction.
That's
kind
correct.
of. You can have as many different Bitcoin addresses as you want, and nobody will know how many Bitcoin addresses you've actually generated. So maybe they'll know the first Bitcoin address that you received the Bitcoins to, but then once you send it to the next address, they don't know who owns that address.
Cool. That answers my question. Thank you.
Hey, thanks,
Appreciate
Chris.
the call, Chris.
Appreciate it. Now people can go, because there are always a lot of questions. This is a new technology.
Sure.
New things are scary. Change is intimidating. So we haven't mentioned We Use Coins yet here, and that's something that Roger,
that's important,
that you've been promoting. WeUseCoins.com is where people can go. People go to com. So WeUseCoins.com is where people can go. There's like a nice intro video there. It's a good site for people to get the basics about Bitcoin.
That's right. It's a great introduction to Bitcoins. If you're still trying to figure out what the heck is a Bitcoin, WeUseCoins.com is a great place to start learning about what this world-changing technology is. It's really going to change the way the entire world's financial systems work, and I'm really excited about that. And that's why I wanted to talk to you guys about Bitcoins. And
it's a bold claim, Roger.
Them to me.
It's a bold claim.
Is, but I've hardly been able to sleep since first, hearing about Bitcoins. I've been so excited about it, and the more I think about it, the more confident I am that Bitcoin really is the most important invention since the Internet itself. It's going to change the way the entire world works by giving back control of people's money to each individual.
Huge. It's huge.
It's really exciting. And if you love liberty, you should love Bitcoin.
There you go. Well, John, do you have a question? Time for one more question here, Roger?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go to John in Texas. John?
Hi.
Hey,
John, you're on
Yeah. I just wanted to mention this cool thing where you can trade Bitcoins. It's called Bitcoin OTC. Bitcoin-OTC on Freenode. It's an IRC channel. It's really
okay. You got to remember something, John. You're talking with an international audience that may not be as technically adept as you are. So IRC's probably a little bit too advanced. You're talking about internet relay chat.
I sure don't know what the heck it is.
Right. So you got to keep things at a more general level for people to really kind of understand.
Yeah. IRC is like an online chat room thing.
Right.
It's
right. But it's not easy for people to. It's not easy for people to get there. Do you see what I'm saying? Like if people go to WeUseCoins.com, it's really easy for them because then they can go and they can watch
a video, push play,
and they can understand it. You're talking about more advanced sort of stuff, and I appreciate that.
And I know you're excited about it, John. I do, and I appreciate the call.
Thank you for that. So, Roger, anything else you want to share tonight about Bitcoins?
Yeah, just to everybody out there who's hearing about them for the first time. It's worth your while to go out there and learn about Bitcoins. It's going to change the way the entire world's financial system works. And if you're in favor of individuals having more control over their lives, you should love Bitcoin because that's exactly what Bitcoin's going to do. It's going to give everybody control of their own money. And if the world was using Bitcoins, the bailouts couldn't have happened. All these wars that you see going on, I don't think would be able to happen because most of those are paid for by the government inflating the currency.
Mm-hmm.
With Bitcoin, it cannot be inflated. And so the governments wouldn't have money for all these wars you see going around all over the world.
Yep.
So if you're against war and in favor of personal liberty, you need to start using Bitcoin. And that's why, I'm sponsoring Bitcoin's commercials on your show because I think it'll make the world a better place. And I'm really, really excited about that.
People really don't get this, but back when the U.S. dollar was more tied to gold and silver, during the World War II, they asked people to buy war bonds in order to support the war effort. But you'll notice during the War on Terror, what George Bush said was go shopping. I mean, that was his advice, go shopping. And that's because the United States currency is backed by nothing now, and there isn't, they don't need you to buy war bonds. They're just printing it up in computers somewhere, making new dollars, and they don't need you to buy anything.
Roger,
Bitcoin stops that.
I think we finally covered everything for tonight. I thank you for staying in the extra half hour to field all those phone calls.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thanks, Roger.
More coming up. Let's talk about the smoking ban on the way. This one is about as outrageous as they get.
Free Talk Live. We are doing a promotion here on Free Talk Live. We're calling the Stocking Stuffer Holiday Promotion.
It's exciting.
And we've been giving away all kinds of different prizes at our Facebook page. It's facebook.freetalklive.com. And, just a bunch of things. Totasax, Vaporsmiths, vaporizers, Liberty stickers, 5-packs, Ruger BX25 magazines, copies of the movie Guns and Weed, copies of the movie Yeardley that we're going to be giving away. I haven't actually done any of those yet, but I'm getting ready to go. But Roger Ver, who was on with us here from MemoryDealers.com talking about Bitcoins, has made a very generous offer. He's going to give 100 Bitcoins away, one to every person that posts a Bitcoin address at facebook.freetalklive.com. And that is our Facebook page. And I think you can probably go get yourself a Bitcoin address very quickly. Ian, where would you go to get one of these wallet things?
Oh, well, that's easy. You just go to install the Bitcoin client on your computer, and it gives you one.
Well, how do you get where do you go to install the Bitcoin client?
I'm pretty sure that's bitcoin.org.
Okay. Bitcoin.org. You could probably certainly we use coins.org to get this, and I don't think that 100 is going to go too quickly. So you might have a chance to go and read.
It'll take you 5 minutes to install this thing. It's just you just go to bitcoin.org. The download links are right there at the top right. Download it for Windows, for Linux, for Mac. Install it. And then you've got your first Bitcoin address, and then just post that over at facebook.freetalklive.com.
And Roger will give you a Bitcoin. So you get your first Bitcoin completely free. Bitcoin's right now worth about what,
$2.20 US.
Yeah, I've got a little what do you call it, applet on my phone that tells me a widget. Is that what it is? So anyway,
and unlike the financial markets, which open and close at a certain time, as far as, what's the price of gold today? Well, you have to, the price is only available, only changes during a certain time of day. Bitcoin, it's 24/7.
Yep.
You go to sleep at night.
It's $2.26 right now, as a matter of fact.
The price in the morning when you wake up is going to be different than when you went to sleep.
Yeah, it was almost $3 earlier in the week, and it's back down to $2.20. Seems like a good time to buy. I don't know. You can certainly buy some more if you.
One thing's for sure, you don't know what's going to happen with Bitcoin, right? I mean,
well, I do know this. You don't know how high or how low it's going to go, but the algorithm that makes it uncounterfeitable is worth something. And
oh yeah, sure. I think it's always going to be worth something.
Yeah.
Just you can't predict what is going to happen to it.
Right. I'm not going to say that it's not going to go down to $1. I don't know, but it could very well shoot back up to 30 again. Hard to say. It's
Only
just
time
hard to
will
say.
tell.
So it's facebook.freetalklive.com to post your Bitcoin address and get a free Bitcoin. And that's very generous of Roger Ver to have done that for us.
He's a generous kind of guy.
Well, he promotes the things he believes in, and that's what it's about. And thank him for it.